Bam Adebayo on Tuesday night scored the second most points in the history of an NBA game, right behind Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points. He surpasses Kobe Bryant's 81 that he scored over Jalen Rose in 2006. The 62 points for 3 quarters was amazing. I think he had like 41 points at half, 31 in the first quarter. Then the fourth quarter, did the Heat pull a little bit of NBA 2K and try to massage it? Yeah, they did. But he still scored 83 points. I mean, nobody else has done it.
Yeah, and you know, people are criticizing it, saying, "Oh, it was against the Washington Wizards, and he took a ridiculous amount of free throws." And who cares? I certainly would not have expected Bam Adebayo to score 83.
Well, that's part of the issue too. Like, if it was John Moran, LeBron, Jason Tatum, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, you name it, any of the stars, Bam Adebayo is a very good player. Nobody has ever considered him the best player on the Heat.
Yeah, everybody has said that honor goes to Tyler Hero, and
Yeah,
he was out.
Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo has been to 2 NBA Finals, and I thought he played well defensively against Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic in both those finals. He's been a very good player, but his career average is 18 points. Now, the one thing I have always said is, now that Donovan Mitchell scored 70 once in a game a few years ago, and Devin Booker, I think, got 70 in a game a couple years ago, and everybody was flipping out and saying, oh my God, this is amazing. My problem is in the NBA, I think scoring has gotten easier. So I think like 50 is what 40 used to be. 60 now is what 50 used to be, et cetera, et cetera. But 83, I mean, it makes you think, if somebody wanted to, honest to God, I truly believe this. I think with the way the NBA game is going, in the next decade, somebody could score 100 points and break Wilt Chamberlain's record. I think
Oh,
the
I agree with you.
I think
Um,
shooting is a lot better. I think the 3 point shot makes it astronomically easier, especially if you're hot from three. But what this accomplishment does is it's like the greatest 3 point shooter ever, Steph Curry, never got remotely close to this number. Victor Wembanyama we don't know yet. LeBron, I think the most he ever scored in a game was 61. That time he was wearing the black mask as a member of the Heat against the Charlotte Hornets.
Bobcats.
Yeah, I guess they were still the Bobcats at the time. Michael Jordan, I think, scored, what was it, 61 ish against the Celtics in that 1980 something series. I don't remember the year, the one where Larry Bird said he was God disguised in sneakers. It's pretty wild to think that in the record books, it's Bam on a bio. And I also think people have a problem with, because God rest his soul, he's now no longer with us. It's like you're passing Kobe, and then once he got past Kobe, they took him out of the game, which almost makes it like a certain, like they were going after Kobe's record. I think people would have been better off with go for Wilt's record.
Yeah. Um, and it's not like Washington was playing any defense
Oh,
either.
by the way, do you know that the oldest player in the Wizards starting lineup that night was 22 years old? It's a college team. I think Michigan college basketball was older than the Washington Wizards.
That the Wizards are trash. They really are. The game
I mean,
had
next year they're gonna have Trey Young and Anthony Davis, though. But the NBA's got a tanking problem.
yay. They'll both find a way to get injured because they're injury prone players. So I don't really care. But no, like that's why I love it because it was somebody we didn't expect. Like you said, I would have expected somebody like Anthony Edwards or a younger Stephen Curry, not 37-year-old Steph, but maybe like Steph when he first came into the league.
I
Jason,
think Wemby's got a chance to do it.
yeah,
I actually do.
that's what. No, that's you're making my point for me, so I appreciate that. Somebody like a Wemby, Jason Tatum, if he was fully healthy, I, maybe Jaylen Brown, SGA, possibly.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell could. The guys that are pure scores. I don't think of Tatum as like a pure scorer. I think Kevin Durant in his prime could have done it. Though if he was hot one night. I do want to say this. I love the way because NBC was airing Celtic Spurs on Tuesday night, and they would cut in, and talk about the history and show the game why. I love the way that NBC celebrated the moment. They didn't bring the moment down by, because again, this is going to make a shot, and I apologize to people at ESPN, but this is the truth. If ESPN, in my opinion, was airing this, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaquille O'Neal would have said, well, that would have never happened back in our day because we would have knocked him to the floor and would have never allowed it to happen.
Oh, yeah. First Take was like completely overanalyzing it. And I'm like, can we just celebrate the piece of history that we just saw? Like,
but here's the thing. He's going to be a Jeopardy question. Who, and maybe it's not who has the second, most high scoring game, but who scored 83 points in the NBA game in 2026. So Bam Adebayo, I joke every time that the NBA Hall of Fame is actually the Basketball Hall of Fame, that anybody gets in the Hall of Fame. Bam Adebayo pretty much became a famous person overnight. Good for him.
Yes. By the way, it's not called the NBA Hall of Fame. It is the Basketball
That's
Hall
what I
of
mean.
Fame.
It's called the Basketball Hall of Fame. Which you can make an argument that based off last night, Bam Adebayo was getting in the Basketball Hall of Fame Tuesday
night. Maybe, but it was kind of an important game for Miami because they're the number 6 seed, so they're just inside the playoffs, so they're trying to stay in there. But overall, I didn't feel like Wizards Heat was this hugely important game on a Tuesday night. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, the Wizards are playing the Heat. So what?
I do think Miami intentionally missing free throws and then fouling people to try to get the ball back to Bam, that was a little excessive at the end.
Yeah, I agree with. But when you're chasing history like that, I understand it.
To me, it's different being in a video game than it is in real life. I said this on Brandon's World on Tuesday. In baseball, we often talk about the unwritten rules a lot. We don't talk a lot of the line of football and basketball because in football, really the only unwritten rule is when you take a knee, don't try to grab the ball and don't try to start a fight. In basketball, I would say the unwritten rule is when you're up 20 with a minute left, dribble the clock out, don't foul, don't extend the game, don't try to run up the score. It did feel like, I think, a little bit to some people like Miami was breaking some of those rules.
Yeah. You talked about it, though. Like, NBC went away from a potential finals preview. We'll get into that here in a second. And they showed, like, the start of the fourth quarter with Bam Adebayo, and they showed, like, him making the free throws, which, how did you feel about him breaking the record via free throws?
Again, you can score by free throws in basketball. It happens. I saw the funniest tweet from Barstool Sports that basically said that SGA wishes this was him and not Bam Adebayo. But you can score from free throws. I did not like that he shot 43 free throws. I'll say that. Again, I did feel like if you're going to break the record, don't shoot 37 or make 37 or how many free throws it was. It just did feel like towards the fourth quarter was getting too obvious.
Yeah.
I would compare it to, like, in baseball, if a guy has 4 home runs And in order to get a fifth, the guy wobs the ball right down the middle and lets him hit it. Like, you don't want to break the record that way.
Okay, I know we're talking about the NBA, but I love this comment. Raiders got bent over the barrel, and then not even a first kiss.
They could be better off, though. I don't know if that's fair to say.
It's funny, though, so I wanted to show it anyway.
Fair enough. All right, well, you mentioned it, though. The Boston Celtics, boy, have they looked good. Me and Jalen may be wrong on Jason Tatum. Now, who knows? Tatum came back Friday night. I thought he looked okay. Certainly thought he looked a lot better Sunday. I still would argue I would have not played him Sunday against the Cavs if I was Boston, because we still don't know how he is going to recover long term. I think it'll be interesting to see how they get into the playoffs and utilize him in series. But they are certainly, when they shoot the ball, I'll say it like this: when they shoot the ball the way they did 2 years ago, they can beat anybody on any given night. I still don't know if in the West, I think they match up well against an Oklahoma City. But if they were to match up against like a Jokic or a Wemby, I don't think they have the answer to stop San Antonio or Denver in a 7-game series.
The two biggest things that came out of Tuesday's game for me in San Antonio were, one, Victor Wembanyama made 8 3-pointers, which that's not usually his game to step out and shoot the 3-pointer.
And he took 15, mostly because Boston would outwon him in the lane, which I think is more of an NBA issue than a Celtic issue. I get why Boston did it. I just don't want a big man of that stature taking 15 threes a game, even though he made 8 of them, which is insane.
Yes. And then, of course, the other big story was Jaylen Brown getting ejected.
Yeah.
Whether that was...
Which to me, by the way, took some sting out of this game, because then it's like, well, what do I make of this game now?
Yeah, I agree. I personally did not like that he got ejected, though I understood why. It wasn't even, here's the thing, it wasn't even the official who teed him up the first time that ended up ejecting him. Because I believe the official who ejected him was Terry Ford, if I remember his name, or who gave him his first technical.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that front. So.
Was Terry Ford, if I remember correctly. And then it was a different ref who gave him his second tee because he would not calm down and he came towards the refs. So I agree. But now tonight, they're in Oklahoma City taking on the reigning defending NBA champions in the Oklahoma City Thunder. Interestingly, the Thunder are a 7.5-point favorite tonight.
Is this their first matchup this year?
I'm looking. Yes,
I believe it is.
No. So, oh man, you know how you were talking about Jason Tatum potentially not playing?
Is he out tonight?
Damn it.
Well, do they have a back-to-back tomorrow? I don't have their schedule in front of me.
So they're at Oklahoma City tonight. No, they don't play again until Saturday against Washington.
So they want them to rest a little bit and then play against the easy team in Washington. What's also interesting is that no one's talking about, they lost Vucevic now for the next month, which is a big piece for them going off the bench.
Yeah, Derek White's a game-time decision for them. Vucevic is out, like you said, until March 29th. OKC still without Jalen Williams, no Isaiah Hartenstein, and the other two guys are injured.
I wonder if Jaylen Brown ball hogs a little bit tonight, because I think Jaylen Brown's going to want to try to make an MVP statement tonight.
No, it's interesting you say that, because that's also part of the reason I'm frustrated that he got ejected from that game on Tuesday against San Antonio, because, I was saying Cade Cunningham for a while was the leading candidate for MVP, but, and again, I hate this conversation with, is Jaylen Brown the lead man or is Jason Tatum the lead man? I have to say Jaylen Brown is the leading candidate, at least for me, in terms of MVP. Nobody expected Boston to be second in the Eastern Conference with Jason Tatum out. We both
I
had them.
I
We both,
agree, especially if they catch Detroit. Because did you see all of a sudden they're only 3.5 back?
yeah, but it feels like Detroit's going to hang on and clinch the number one seed.
Here's the thing for me: if the Spurs catch OKC and they get the 1 seed, I think you have to give the MVP to Wemby.
I agree. I'm from everything I've read, SGA is the leading candidate for MVP again. Okay.
The NBA likes to give back-to-back MVPs, and then the next year, all of a sudden, they go, "It doesn't matter what you do, you can't win it again."
Yeah. But I'm just like, again, I hate the conversation of is it Jason Tatum's team? Is it Jaylen Brown's?
Well, here's the problem with the MVP conversation. Remember a couple years ago, Russell Westbrook won it because he got a triple-double and nobody had ever done it since Oscar. And then last year, Jokic averaged a triple-double, but he already won 2 MVPs, so we can't give it to him again. And SGA is having such a great season. Jokic obviously has missed time this year, and Denver has struggled since he came back, but he's also averaging another triple-double again this year. And everybody's like, yeah, he can't win MVP again.
Yeah.
So that's why I have an issue with the MVP, because I think it's biased, especially in the NBA. The NFL is too, but not as much. I think it's biased. I think it is.
Oh, I think it's worse in the NFL.
I don't think it's reflective of who the MVP of the week actually is, because it's all about value. Which I think this year you could make the case Wemby and Jaylen Brown and Cade Cunningham are the 3 most valuable players in the league.
Oh, I 100% agree. And the reason I disagree with you about the NFL is because it's always the damn quarterback who wins MVP.
Well, the problem is because they are the most valuable position in all of sports, and that includes major, college, whatever.
I just hate it because it feels like, no, the quarterback is not always the most important position.
I mean, you cannot win a Super Bowl if you have a top. If your quarterback is average, you cannot win a Super Bowl. I honestly believe that.
Sam Darnold wasn't an elite quarterback, and yet Seattle still won.
He was. Sam Darnold played like a top 5 quarterback this year. He absolutely did.
But he's not considered a top 5 quarterback.
I would say now Sam Darnold's a top 10 quarterback. I absolutely would.
We'll see. But getting back to this, you know, he comes back against Dallas. Okay, whatever. Then he plays on the road in Cleveland, which whether the Cavs are legit or not, I truly don't know.
It's going to come down to toughness. And I thought that game, the Cavs just missed a bunch of open shots. Again, I think series are so different than these individual games.
Yeah. And like the Cavs trailed by as many as 20 in that game against Boston.
I like this comment from Grandizer, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you, Grandizer. By the way, Grandizer, anytime you want to come on the show, hit us up.
Grandizer, I'll tell you this. Now that my schedule is not as chaotic, I plan on getting back to making a lot more content and doing what I do best. So be on the lookout for that.
But to wrap this conversation up, because I know we're going to talk about SGA in a minute, if you ask me today, again, I know it goes against the grain because they haven't had playoff experience. I get it. Sometimes I think rules are meant to be broken. Today, I think the Spurs are winning the NBA title. And that could change within the next month, but that's how I feel today.
Does it scare you at all that their core doesn't have a lot of playoff experience? Because
that's what I just said. It should, but when I watch them, they play great defense. They shoot the 3. They have great guard play. Wemby is an alien, And I can't get it out of my head. How are you going to beat that guy 4 times in 7 games?
I'll tell you who I think is the key for the Spurs. It's not Wemby. For me, it is Stephon Castle.
Yeah.
Because what we know what we're typically going to get from Wemby each game, but if Castle can continuously step up and give you 20 plus points a game, it's a lot harder to beat the Spurs. Because
no, it is true. We talked about it with Denver when they won the title. We knew what we were going to get from Jokic. It all came down to what you were going to get from Jamal Murray and Michael Porter and Bruce Brown and those guys.
Exactly. So it's that supporting cast. Like, it's the same thing with Boston when they won the finals 2 years ago. You knew what you were going to get from Jaylen Brown. You knew what you were going to get from Jason Tatum. But what were you going to get from the others?
Well, that team was a little different, I would argue, just because they were so deep. I mean, some nights Porzingis didn't even have to play, and they could just stomp you.
Yeah. Okay. No, on that topic though, when I look back at like why LeBron had so much success with the Miami Heat and in his second stint with the Cavs, it wasn't just because those teams had strong supporting casts around them, but it's because those teams surrounded him with shooters. Think about it. In Miami,
Shane Battier, Ray Allen,
Mario Chalmers,
James Jones, Mike Miller, Cleveland, it was obviously JR, Delly, Shumpert, and Shumpert was those are the other thing. Those guys, Mike Miller, James Jones, Shumpert, great defenders. Boston, Pritchard, great defender. Hauser, great defender. OKC, you have Lou Dort, great defender.
Yes.
Both Jalen Williams, great defenders. Caruso, great defender. At San Antonio, that's the biggest question is, can these young guys defend?
For me, it's also if Wemby gets double teamed, is he going to be able to pass it out to Devin Vassell, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and can they shoot it? Because like I said, that to me was a huge reason why LeBron was successful with Miami and with Cleveland, because he could spray it out to Shane Battier, Ray Allen, Mike Miller, Mario Chalmers, J.R. Smith, James Jones. You get, think about that Orlando team that we lost to in the Eastern Conference Finals. Dwight Howard had
Rasheed Lewis,
Rashard Lewis.
Rashard, yeah, but I think it was spelled Rasheed, but I know he said it a different way. Jameer Nelson.
Exactly. So I want to see if San Antonio can become that type of team. Not that they have to become this prolific three-point shooting team. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if he gets double-teamed, can he rely on Stephon Castle if he passes it out to him to take the mid-range shot? You know what I mean?
Before we get to SGA, I want to wrap up on San Antonio, and I want to say this. I don't care what round we get it in, if it's in the first, second, or the conference finals. This year, I want a playoff series between San Antonio and Denver. Yes. I want to see what I believe is the two best big men that I've ever personally watched. I know Jalen, who was on the show last week, and we had a great show last week, obviously.
I think we gave him bronchitis.
Yeah. I know Jalen loves Shaq and thinks that Shaq is the greatest center ever and most dominant. I get it. I have never seen anybody play the game the way Wemby and Jokic play, and I think we need that playoff series.
I will tell you this. If both teams are fully healthy, if we get a Spurs Thunder Western Conference Finals, remember how you and I had that conversation? Is Rams Seahawks the real Super Bowl? Remember that conversation?
Yes.
I will say it right here, right now. If we get Spurs Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, to me, that's the real NBA Finals.
I feel like the Western Conference second round could be the NBA Finals. Thunder, T-Wolves, Spurs, Nuggets, or Rockets maybe in there. One of those teams. Maybe Denver gets beaten. Houston's in there. But it just feels like that Western Conference starting in the second round is going to be tremendous basketball.
Yeah. The Eastern Conference, it feels like we know who the 4 teams are: Cleveland, Detroit, Boston, New York. But I feel like, remember I said a couple weeks back, Detroit's the favorite. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like Boston is now the favorite. I would probably say Cleveland is number 2, even though we've been a little bit inconsistent lately. I would say Detroit is number 3. I would put New York number 4. And then
I think the Knicks are built for the playoffs. I think the Knicks are going to surprise a lot of people in the playoffs.
We'll see. But it feels like the Eastern Conference, it's more interchangeable. Like, we think it's one thing, but then nope, it changes, and it's now a different order. With the West, you could put, I guess it's also interchangeable, but it feels like there's more clear separation. That it's, for me, it's OKC, San Antonio, Denver. I don't trust Houston.
And it's crazy. Denver's almost dropping down to the play-in. But do you remember what I told you last year around the Thunder Pacers series, where everybody was saying, "Oh, the Thunder, they could be the next dynasty. Oh, they're built to last." And I said, "You better win the title this year, because next year the West is only going to get better, and there is no guarantee that you will get back. You may have this great team. There's other great teams in the West too."
Yeah. Minnesota is still lurking.
Absolutely. The thing about Minnesota is, do you know this? There's only been 3 teams in the history of the NBA that have lost the conference finals back-to-back years and then made the finals the next year. One of them was the 2000 Pacers. I don't think any of them have won the title. I could be wrong on that.
Ant needs a title. He really does.
I agree. Well, a guy that already has a title, and we talked about Wilt Chamberlin has got more talk on this show and this week than maybe he ever has before in his whole life over the last 50 years. Because all of a sudden, Bam Adebayo changed his record, and SGA tonight could break a record by Wilt Chamberlin by scoring the most consecutive 20-point games at 126. And I'm the guy on the show who loves to take shots at SGA, call him a free-throw merchant. I said earlier in the show, it's easier to score nowadays. The new 60, I feel like, is like what 50 used to be. The new 70 is what 60 used to be, etc. The fact that Michael Jordan never got close to this record, LeBron never, we talked about the historic landscape of this record. This is so impressive to me. And at this young of age, it also shows the durability that SGA has. So this should absolutely be slighted. This is not a knock at SGA, even though do I think he gets a lot of calls the way James Harden used to? I absolutely believe yes is the case. But like you've told me a lot, he makes the most out of his opportunities, and that's clear in this record.
Yeah. I personally do not believe he's a free throw merchant. I think he's just that good overall. And he's able to make the defense make mistakes. I think he's just that good.
And the thing about SGA is this. People don't realize this. His first year in the league was not on the Thunder. His rookie year, he was a Clipper.
The Clippers have to be kicking themselves for that whole thing, because they're the reason the Thunder are where they are right now, without a doubt.
Yeah, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he was the pick that ended up being in because of the Kawhi Leonard trade.
He didn't get Kawhi. No, it was the Paul George trade.
Oh, the Paul George trade, yes, but it was linked to the Kawhi Leonard situation.
It was because Kawhi had signed with
the Clippers.
Yep. And he said, "Go get me Paul George."
Yep. And
Um,
so, the Clippers' decision in 2019 may have changed the NBA forever.
yeah,
Uh, but again, this is not me taking shots at SGA. This to me should almost be more celebrated than Bam Adebayo scoring 83. I think this is more impressive.
I agree because we kind of expect it out of SGA.
Well, it's not that. I mean, you think of LeBron went how many games scoring 10 plus? That streak broke this year. And people, oh, it's 10 points. Sometimes in the NBA, you get double teamed, or you get hurt, or you don't have your shot. I mean, there are so many circumstances. You get 2 fouls or early in a game. You got to sit down for a half.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And SGA has been injured throughout this season. He's had like abdominal issues, I think it
Yeah.
was.
But again, the fact that he is able to break this record, which I think is like 126 something games, which is the equivalent of 1.5 or somewhere around there, full seasons. And he's played what, 70 games mostly, if you will, because that's like the new 82, because no one really plays 82 anymore. Throughout his entire career, it does show durability, even though he's been out for 2 weeks this year.